guys, today I'm gonna read Warriors into the Wild, Chapter 1. Prologue. A half moon glowed on smooth granitic boulders, turning them silver. Their silence was broken only by the ripple of water from the swift black river and the whisper of trees in the forest beyond. There was a stirring in the shadows, and from all around lithe dark shapes crept stealthily over the rocks. Unsheathed claws glinted in the moonlight, weary eyes flashed like amber. And then, as if on a silent signal, the creatures leaped at each other, and suddenly the rocks were alive with rustling, screeching cats. At the center of a frenzy of fur and claws, a massive dark tabby pinned a bracken-colored Tom to the ground and drew up his head triumphantly. "Oh, Card!" the tabby growled. "How dare you hunt in our territory? The Sunning Rocks belong to ThunderClan. After tonight, Tigerclaw, this will be just another RiverClan hunting ground." The bracken-colored Tom spat back. A warning yowl came from the shore, shrill and anxious. "Look out! More RiverClan warriors are coming!" Tigerclaw turned to see sleek, wet bodies sliding out of the water below the rocks. The drenched RiverClan warriors bounded silently up the shore and hurled themselves into battle without even stopping to shake the water from their fur. The dark tabby glared down at Oakheart. "You may swim like otters, but you and your warriors do not belong in this forest." He drew back his lip and showed his teeth as the cat struggled beneath him. The desperate scream of ThunderClan she-cat rose above the clamor. A wary RiverClan Tom had pinned the brown warrior flat on her belly. Now he lugged towards her neck, with claws still dripping from his swim across the river. Tigerclaw heard a cry and let go of Oakheart. With a mighty leap, he knocked the enemy warrior away from the she-cat. "Quick, Mousefur, run!" he ordered, before turning on the RiverClan Tom who had threatened her. Mousefur scrambled to her paws, wincing from a deep gash on her shoulder, and raced away. Behind her, Tigerclaw spat with rage as the RiverClan Tom sliced open his nose. Blood blinded him for an instant, but he lunged forward regardless and sank his teeth into the hind leg of his enemy. The RiverClaw cat squealed and struggled free. "Tigerclaw!" The yowl came from a warrior with a tail as red as fox fur. "This is useless. There were too many RiverClan warriors." "No, Redtail. ThunderClan will never be threatened," Tigerclaw yelled back, leaping to Redtail's side. "This is our territory." Blood was welling down around his broad black muzzle, and he shook his head impatiently, scattering scarlet drops onto the rocks. I need something to point. ThunderClan will honor your courage, Tiger Claw, but we cannot afford to lose any more of our warriors, Redtail urged. Blue Star would never expect her warriors to fight against these impossible odds. We will have another change to avenge this defeat. He met Tiger Claw's amber eyes gaze steadily, when reared away and sprang onto a boulder at the edge of the trees. Restart, ThunderClan! Restart! Retreat, ThunderClan! Retreat! He yelled. At once his warriors squirmed and struggled away from these opponents. Spitting and snarling, they backed towards Redtail. For a heartbeat, the River Clan cat looked confused. Was this battle so easily won? Then Oakherd yelled a jubilant cry. As soon as they heard him, the River Clan warriors raised their voice and joined their deputy in caterwauling their victory. Redtail looked down at his warriors. With a flick of his tail, he gave the signal and the ThunderClan cat dived down the far side of the stunning rocks. Then that disappeared into the trees. Tiger Claw followed last. He hesitated at the edge of his forest and glanced back at the blood-stained battlefield. His face was grim, his eyes furious slits. Then he limped after his clan into the silent forest. In a deserted clearing, an old gray she-cat sat alone, staring up at the clear night sky. All around her in the shadows, she could hear a breathing and stirring of sleeping cats. A small tortoise-shell she-cat emerged from a dark corner, her paw steps quick and soundless. The gray cat dipped her head in greeting. How is Mousefur? She meowed. Her wounds are deep, Blue Star, answered the tortoise-shell, settling herself on night cool grass. But she's young and strong. She will heal quickly. And others? They will all recover too. Blue Star sighed. We were lucky not to have lost any of our warriors this time. You are a gifted machine cat, Spotleaf. She tilted her head again and studied the stars. I'm deeply troubled by tonight's defeat. ThunderClan has not been beaten in its own territory since I came leader, she murmured. These were difficult times for our clan. The season of new leaf is late, and there have been fewer kids. ThunderClan needs more warriors if it is to survive. But the year is only just beginning, Spotleaf pointed out calmly. There will be no more kids, and when Greenleaf comes. The gray cat twitched her broad shoulders. Perhaps, but training our young to become warriors take time. If ThunderClan is to defend its territory, it must have new warriors as soon as possible. Are you asking StarClan for answers? Meowed Spotleaf gently, following Blue Star's gaze and staring up at the swatch of stars glittering in the dark sky. It is time like this when the words of ancient warriors to help us. Has StarClan spoken to you? Blue Star asked. Not for some moons, Blue Star. Suddenly, a shooting star blazed over the treetops. Spotleaf's tail twitched, and the fur along her spine bristled. Blue Star's ear pricked out. She remained silent as Spotleaf continued to gaze upward. After a few moments, Spotleaf lowered her head and turned to Bluestar. It was a message from StarClan, she murmured. A distant look came to her eyes. Fire alone can save our clan. Fire? Bluestar echoed. But fire is feared by all the clans. How can it save us? Spotleaf shook her head. I don't know, she admitted, but this is the message StarClan has chosen to share with me. The ThunderClan leader fixed her clear blue eyes on the Medicine Cat. You have never been wrong before, Spotleaf, she meowed. If StarClan has spoken, then it must be so. Fire will save our clan. Chapter 1. It was very dark. Rusty could sense something was near. The young tomcat's eyes opened wide as scanned and the dense undergrowth. This place was unfamiliar, but the strange sense drew him onward, deeper into the shadows. His stomach growled, reminding him of his hunger. He opened his jaws slightly to let the warm smells of the forest reach the scent glands on the roof of his mouth. Musty odors of leaf mold mingled with the tempting aroma of a small furry creature. Suddenly, a flash of gray raced past him. Rusty stopped still, listening. It was hiding in the leaves less than two tail length away. Rusty knew it was a mouse. He could feel the rapid pulsing of a tiny heart deep within his ear fur. He swallowed, stifling his rumbling stomach. Soon his hunger would be satisfied. Slowly he lowered his body into position, crouching for the attack. He was downwind of the mouse. He knew it was not aware of him. With one final check on his prey's position, Rusty pushed back hard on his hunches and sprang, kicking up leaves of the forest floor as he rose. The mouse dived for cover, heading towards a hole in the ground, but Rusty was already on top of it. He scooped it into the air, hugging the helpless creature with his thorn-sharp claws, flinging it up in a dark arc into the leaf-covered ground. The mouse landed dazed, but alive. He tried to run, but Rusty snatched it up again. He tossed the mouse once more, and this time a little farther away. The mouse managed to scramble a few paces before Rusty caught up with it. Suddenly a noise roared nearby. Rusty looked around, and as he did so, the mouse was able to pull away from his claws. When Rusty turned back, he saw it dart into the darkness among the tangled roots of a tree. Angry, Rusty gave up the hunt. He spun around, his green eyes glaring, intent on searching out noise that he had caused him his kill. The sound rattled on, becoming more familiar. Rusty blinked, opened his eyes. The forest had disappeared. He was inside a hot and airless kitchen, curled in his bed. Moonlight flittered through the window, casting shadows on the smooth, hard floor. The noise had been the rattle of hard, dried pellets of food as they were tipped into his dish. Rusty had been dreaming. Lifting his head, he rested his chin on the side of his bed. His collar rubbed uncomfortably around his neck. In his dream, he had felt fresh air ruffling the soft fur where the collar usually pinched. Rusty rolled onto his back, savoring the dream for a few more moments. He could still smell mouse. It was the third time since full moon that he'd had the dream, and every time the mouse had escaped his grasp, he licked his lips. From his bed, he could smell a bland odor of his food. His owners always refilled the dish before they went to bed. The dusty smell chased away the warm sense of his dream. But the hunger rumbled on his stomach, so Rusty scratched the sleep out of the lips and padded across the kitchen floor to his dinner. The food felt dry and tasteless on his tongue. Rusty reluctantly swallowed one more mouthful. Then he turned away from the food dish and pushed his way out through the cat flap, hoping that the smell of the garden would bring back the feelings from his dream. Outside, the moon was bright. It was raining lightly. Rusty stalked down the tidy garden, following the starlit gravel path, feeling the stones cold and sharp beneath his paws. He made his start beneath a large bush with glossy green leaves and heavy purple flowers. Their sickly sweet scent cloyed damp air around him, and he curled his lip to drive the smell out of his nostrils. Afterward, Rusty settled down on top of one of the posts in the fence and marked the limits of his garden. It was a favorite spot of his, as he could see right into the neighboring garden as well as into the dense green forest on the other side of the garden fence. The rain had stopped. Behind him, the close-cropped lawn was bathed in moonlight, but beyond his fence, the woods were full of shadows. Rusty stretched his head forward to take a sniff of a damp air. His skin was warm and dry under his thick coat, but he could feel the weight of the raindrops that sparkled on his ginger fur. He heard his owners giving him one last call from the back door. If he went to them now, they would greet him with gentle words and caresses and welcome him onto their bed, where he would curl, purring, warm in the crook of a bent knee. But this time Rusty ignored his owner's voices and turned his gaze back to the forest. The crisp smell of woods had grown fresher after the rain. Suddenly the fur on his spine prickled. Was something moving out there? Was something watching him? Rusty stared ahead, but it was impossible to see or smell anything on the dark, tree-scented air. He lifted his chin boldly, stood up, and stretched, one paw gripping each corner of a fence post as he straightened his legs and arched his back. He closed his eyes and breathed in the smell of the woods once more. It seemed to promise him something, tempting him onward into the whispering shadows. Tensing his muscles, he crouched for a moment. Then he leaped lightly down into the rough grass on the other side of the garden fence. As he landed, the bell on the collar rang out through the still night air. "Where are you off to, Rusty?" meowed a familiar voice behind him. Rusty looked up. A young black and white cat was balancing gracefully on the fence. "Hello, Smudge," Rusty replied. "You're not going to go into the woods, are you?" Smudge's amber eye was huge. "Just for a look," Rusty promised, shifting uncomfortably. "You wouldn't get me in there. It's dangerous." Smudge wrinkled his back nose with distaste. "Henry said he went into the woods once." The cat lifted his head and gestured with his nose over the rows of fences towards the garden where Henry lived. "The fat old tabby never went into the woods," Rusty scoffed. "He's hardly been beyond his own garden since his trip to the vet. All he wants to do is eat and sleep." "No, really, he caught a robin there," Smudge insisted. "Well, if he did, then it was before the vet. Now he complains about birds because they disturb his dozing. Well, anyway," Smudge went on, ignoring the scorn in Rusty's mew. "Henry told me that there are all sorts of dangerous animals out there. Huge wildcats who eat leaf rabbits for breakfast and sharpen their claws on old bones. I'm only going for a look around," Rusty meowed. "I won't stay long." "Well, don't say I didn't warn you," purred Smudge. The black and white cat turned and plunged off the fence back down into his own garden. Rusty sat down in a coarse grass beyond the garden fence. He gave his shoulder a nervous lick and wondered how much of Smudge's gossip was true. Suddenly, the movement of a tiny creature caught his eye. He watched it scuttle under the brambles. Instinct made him drop into a log crunch. With one slow paw after another, he drove his body forward through the undergrowth. Ears pricked, nostrils flared, eyes unblinking. He moved towards the animal. He could see it clearly now, sitting up among the barbed branches, nibbling on a large seed held between its paws. It was a mouse. Rusty rocked his haunches from side to side, preparing to leap. He held his breath in case his bell rang again. Excitement coursed through him, making his heart pound. This was ever better than his dreams. Then a sudden noise of cracking twigs and crunching leaves made him jump. His bell jangled treacherously, and the mouse darted away into the thickest tangle of the bramble bush. Rusty stood very still and looked around. He could see the wide tip of a red bushy tail trailing through a clump of tall ferns up ahead. He smelled a strong, strange scent, definitely a meat-eater, but neither cat nor dog. Distracted, Rusty forgot about the mouse and watched the red tail curiously. He wanted a better look. All of Rusty's senses strained ahead as he prowled forward. Then he detected another noise. It came from behind, but sounded muted and distant. He swirled his ears backward to hear it better. Footsteps? He wondered, but he kept his eyes fixed on the strange red fur up ahead, and continued to creep onward. It was only when the faint rustling behind him became a loud and fast approaching leaf crackle that Rusty realized he was in danger. The creature hit him with an explosion, and Rusty was thrown sideways into a clump of nettles. Twisting and yowling, he tried to throw off an attacker, and that had fastened itself to his back. It was gripping him with incredibly sharp claws. Rusty could feel Spike's teeth prickling his neck. He writhed and squirmed for Whisker to tail, but he couldn't free himself. For a second, he felt helpless, and then he froze, thinking fast. He flipped over back onto his back. He knew instinctively how dangerous it was to expose his soft belly, but it was his only chance. He was lucky. The ploy seems to work. He heard a huff beneath him as the breath was knocked out of his attacker. Thrashing fearlessly, Rusty managed to wriggle free. Without looking back, he sprinted towards his home. Behind him, the rush of paw steps told Rusty his attacker was giving chase. Even though the pain from his scratches stung beneath his fur, Rusty decided he would rather turn and fight than let himself be jumped on again. He skidded on to a stop, spun around, and faced his pursuer. It was another kitten, with a thick coat of shaggy gray fur, strong legs, and a broad face. In a heartbeat, Rusty smelled that it was a Tom, and sensed the power in the sturdy shoulders underneath the soft coat. Then the kitten crashed into Rusty as a full pelt. Taken by surprise by Rusty's turnabout, it fell back into a dazzled heap. The impact knocked the breath out of Rusty. Then he staggered. He quickly found his footing and arched his back, puffing out his orange fur, ready to spring it onto another kitten. But his attacker simply sat up and began to lick a forepaw, all sign of aggression gone. Rusty felt strangely disappointed. If ever part of him was tense, ready for battle. "Hi there, Kitty Pat," meowed the gray Tom shrilly. "You put up quite a fight for a tame kitty." Rusty remained tiptoe for a second, wondering whether to attack anyway. Then he remembered the strength he had felt in this kitty's paw when he had pinned him to the ground. He dropped onto his pads, loosened his muscles, and let his spine unbend. "And I'll fight you again if I had to," he growled. "I'm Graypaw, by the way," the gray kitten went on, ignoring Rusty's threat. "I'm training to be a ThunderClan warrior." Rusty remained silent. He didn't understand what this Gray Whatsit was meowing about, but he sensed the threat and passed. He hid his confusion by leaning down to lick his ruffled chest. "What's the kitty pet like you doing in the woods? Don't you know it's dangerous?" asked Graypaw. "If you're the most dangerous thing in the woods has to offer, then I think I can handle it," Rusty bluffed. Graypaw looked up at him for a moment, narrowing his big yellow eyes. "Oh, I'm far from most dangerous. If I were even half a warrior, I have given an intruder like you some real wounds to think about." Rusty felt a thrill of fear at this ominous words. What did the cat mean by intruder? "Anyway," meowed Graypaw, using his sharp teeth to tug a clump of grass from between his claws, "I didn't think it was worth hurting you. You're obviously not from one of the other clans." "Other clans?" Rusty echoed, confused. Graypaw let out his impatient hiss. "You must have heard of the 4 warrior clan that hunt around here. I belong to Thunder Clan. The other clan were away trying to steal prey from our territory, especially Shadow Clan. They were so fierce they would have ripped you to shreds, no question asked. Great Paw paused to split angrily and continued. They came to take prey that is rightfully ours. It's the job of the Thunder Clan warriors to keep them out of our territory. When I finished my training, I will be so dangerous. I'll have the other clans shaking in their flea-bitten skins. They don't dare come near us then. Rusty narrowed his eyes. This must be one of the wildcats Smudge and had warned him about, living rough in the woods, hunting and fighting each other for every last scrap of food. Yet Rusty didn't feel scared. In fact, it was hard not to admire the confident kitten. So you're not a warrior yet? He asked. Why? Did you think I was? Great Paw purred proudly. Then he shook his white furry head. I won't be a real warrior for ages. I have to go through the training first. Kids have to be 6 moons old before they had began training. Tonight is my 4th night out as an apprentice. Why don't you find yourself an owner with a nice cozy house instead? Your life will be much easier, Rusty meowed. There were plenty of house folks who'd taken a kitten like you. All you have to do is sit where they can see you and look hungry for a couple of days, and they'd feed me pellets that look like rabbit dropping and soft slop. Great Paw interrupted. No way, I can't think of anything worse than being a kitty pet. They were nothing but 2-legged toys. Eating stuff that doesn't look like food, making dirt in a box of gravel, sticking their noses outside only when the 2 legs allowed them, that's no life. Out here is wild. And it's free. We came and go as we please. He finished his speech with a proud spit and meowed mischievously. Until you've tasted a fresh-killed mouse, you haven't lived. Have you ever tasted mouse? No, Rusty admitted a little defensively. Not yet. I guess you'll never understand. Great Paw sighed. You weren't born wild. It makes a big difference. You need to be born with a warrior blood in your veins or the feel of the wind in your whiskers. Kitties born into 2-legged nests could never feel the same way. Rusty remembered the way he had felt in his dream. That's not true, he meowed indignantly. Great Paw did not reply. He suddenly stiffed mid-leg, one paw still raised, and sniffed the air. I smell cats from my clan, he hissed. You should go. They won't be pleased to find you hunting in our territory. Rusty looked around, wondering how Great Paw knew any cat were approaching. He couldn't smell anything different on the leaf-scented breeze, but his far stood the end of the note of urgency in Great Paw's voice. Quick! Hissed Great Paw again. Run! Rusty prepared to spring into the bushes, not knowing which way was safe to jump. He was too late. A voice meowed behind him, firm and menacing. What's going on here? Rusty turned to see a large gray she-cat strolling majestically out from the undergrowth. She was magnificent. White hair streaked the muzzle, and an ugly scar parted the far across her shoulders, but her smooth gray coat shone like silver in the moonlight. Bluestar. Besides Rusty, Great Paw crouched down and narrowed his eyes. He crouched even lower when a second cat, a handsome golden tabby, followed the great cat into the clearing. "You shouldn't be so near Two-Leg Place, Great Paw," growled the golden tabby angrily, narrowing his green eyes. "I know, Lionheart. I'm sorry." Great Paw looked down at his paws. Rusty copied Great Paw and crouched low to the forest floor, his ear twitching nervously. This cat had an air of strength he had never seen in any of the garden friends. Maybe what Smudge had warned him about was true. "Who is this?" asked the she-cat. Rusty flinched as she turned her gaze on him. Her piercing blue eyes made him feel even more valuable. "He's no treat. He's no threat," meowed Great Paw quickly. "He's got another clan warrior, just a two-leg pet from beyond our territories." "Just a two-leg pet." The words inflamed Rusty, but he held his tongue. The warning look, his Bluestar stare, told him what she had observed, the anger in his eyes. Then he looked away. "This is Bluestar. She is leader of my clan," Great Paw hissed to Rusty under his breath. "And Lionheart, he is my mentor, which means he's training me to be a warrior. Thank you for the introduction." Great Paw," meowed Lionheart coolly. Bluestar was still staring at Rusty. "You fight well for a two-leg pet," she meowed. Rusty and Great Paw exchanged confused glances. How could she know? "We have been watching you both," Bluestar went on as if she had read their thoughts. "He wondered how you would deal with an intruder, Great Paw. You attacked him bravely." Great Paw looked pleased at Bluestar's praise. "Sit 'em now, both of you." Bluestar looked at Rusty. "You too, Kitty Pat," he said immediately and held Bluestar's gaze evenly as she addressed him. "You reacted well to attack, Kitty Pat. Great Paw is stronger than you, but you used your wits to defend yourself, and you turned to face him when he had chased you. I've not seen a Kitty Pat do that before." Rusty managed to nod his thanks, taken aback by such unexpected praise. Her next word surprised him even more. I have been wondering how you would perform out here beyond the Two-Leg Place. We patrol this border frantically. So I have often seen you sitting on your boundaries, staring into the forest, and now at last you have dared to place your paws here. Bluestar stared at Rusty thoughtfully. "You do seem to have a natural hunting ability. Sharp eyes. You should have caught that mouse if you had not hesitated so long." "Really?" Rusty stammered. Lionheart spoke now. His deep meow was respectful but insistent. "Bluestar, this is Kitty Pat. He should not be hunting in ThunderClan territory. Send him home to his two legs." Rusty prickled at Lionheart's dismissive words. "Send him home? Send me home?" he meowed impatiently. Bluestar's words had made him glow with pride. She had noticed him. She had been impressed by him. "But I've only come here to hunt for a mouse or two. I'm sure there are enough to go around. Bluestar had turned her head to acknowledge Lionheart's word. Now her gaze snapped back to Rusty. Her blue eyes were blazing with anger. "If you didn't live such a soft, overfed life, you would know that." Rusty was confused by Bluestar's sudden rage, but one glance at one glance at the horrified look on Great Paw's face was enough to tell him he had spoken too freely. Lionheart stepped to his leader's side. Both warriors loomed over him now. Rusty looked into Bluster's threatening stare, and his pride dissolved. These were not cozy fireside cats he was dealing with. They were mean, hungry cats who were probably going to finish what Great Paw had started. The end. So tomorrow I will read chapter 2. Okay, so today this is the end, and thank you for listening to my reading. So if you have time, please subscribe me. Goodbye.